I remember one of there was a plaque on the church that I went to as a kid, and it said, check your brain at the door. And there was this overall kind of a thought that I would even hear from um, my pastor at the time, that basically intelligence, if you were intelligent or super educated, it was harder for you to believe in God. Now, clearly, that's not to say that Christians aren't intelligent or there aren't intelligent people who believe in God, of course. And it's kind of my shtick, to make fun of the evangelical crowd with my, well, I was all this stuff I do. Clearly, that's it's become part of what I do now in my videos. But the truth is, it was a real sentiment that was pervasive in the evangelical crowd that I came out of. It was this whole idea that education, intelligence was really an enemy of faith. And it wasn't until my later years, like much later, and kind of embarrassing to admit this, that much later, that I realized, wait, what? Like, uh, using my brain is an enemy of God? Like, that seems awfully suspicious. And because if God created us, right, then He created our brains, He created our thinking, our intellect, He created all of that. So, how is the thing that God created actually an enemy of God and of faith? And really, clearly, it's really more an enemy of religion or of Christianity per se, not necessarily an enemy of God. Though I am not a believer in God, I'm agnostic, atheist as it relates to the Bible God. And by the way, I'm Timmy Gibson, former fundamental evangelical Bible thumping, tongue talking pastor. Did that for 30 years, spent 48 years of my adult life um, a believer, a Christian, a tongue talker, and gave my heart to Jesus when I was 7. And it wasn't until my late 40s that I really started thinking and thinking like, wait a minute, what? This isn't making any sense to me, that if I use my God-given brain, that it actually would go against God. So clearly, this is more of an attack on religion, Christianity specifically. The literalist is what I used to call myself. I used to say this. I'd say, listen, guys, I'm a literalist, meaning I believe Noah built the ark. I can't explain it, but God can do things that I can't, that my mind can't figure out. That was definitely part of my upbringing. In fact, I remember when I was a pastor, pastoring my own church, I remember saying things like this from the pulpit, that it's harder for educated people to believe and trust and have faith in God because there's no evidence for God. So you can't use your brain. You can't use your brain when you try to think about God. You got to use your faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So, for an evangelical Christian, the evidence is faith. Like, that's where your evidence comes from. And there's a different translations that says it's the title deed. Faith is the title deed. So, really, I understand where Christians, how they think, because I was one for so long, and, went to Bible college, graduated Bible college, became, student pastor, another student pastor, associate pastor, and then I was pastoring my own church that I started in my living room, with just 10 people, and grew it to about 300 people. And I remember saying this to the congregation that I pastored, that You got to be careful. Like I would say to kids getting ready to go off to university, like you got to be careful. You got to hold on to your faith. You're going to hear things that are going to contradict. They're going to contradict what you know to be true in your heart, right? By faith, because faith is the evidence. Faith is the title deed, and people that you know, can't live their life by faith, which it's impossible to please God without faith. You got to have faith. Then now I realize, like, oh my God, like that's because you can't use rational thought. That's why I often say I gave in to intellectual honesty. I had to be honest with what I was claiming to believe, and realizing that it really was all just faith. It was again trying to get people to believe in my imaginary friend. I have this imaginary friend. Don't you see him? He's right here. He's sitting next to me. He's a very present in the time of need. He's my he sticks closer than a brother. He's right here. Do you see him? No, you can't see him. You got to see him with the eyes of faith. It takes faith to see God, right? Because he's not there, but faith puts him there. And so clearly, I did a video about this earlier, like weeks ago, that you don't really believe in God. You're just believing in yourself. The voice of God is just your voice, your own mind talking to you, comforting you, encouraging you, telling you you're a good person, you're going to do good. Let me just say this, in full transparency here. I still lean into that voice and that the inner self. Clearly it's the self, it's not God, and how I see it today. It's just this inner dialogue. It's the better side of my nature. And so goodness, when I was a youth pastor, this was a big message that I taught a lot, because I would really warn kids going off to university that you gotta your faith is gonna be under attack, right? Your faith is gonna be under attack by 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 education, by understanding things better. Your faith is gonna come under attack, because it's you're gonna realize this is something that's outside of evidence, right? If you take that faith piece out, which listen, I know that I make fun of, and I do all these videos. I've said this before. I have Christian friends, and they're good people. Not all Christians are good people, just like not all atheists are good people. Not all people are good people, right? I mean, some people are good, some people aren't so good. And what is that? I mean, that's just human nature, right? That's just the way the world works. It's just the way it is, right? Just like animals. Some animals are good, some animals aren't good, right? We've all had pets that were like, I'm gonna let him out and never let him back in, right? Because it's the same with humans. Some humans are just good people, whether they're people of faith or not. They're just good people. And so you have that throughout humans forever, right? And listen, come on. This is the part again, something that Neil deGrasse Tyson said one time, or it was in one of his books. If 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 God really existed and really made a difference in people's hearts, or when people accepted Jesus, if it really made a difference in people's hearts, it would be, you could see it. Like, you just look around, right? Like that First Baptist church down the street, man, all them people down there, they honest, they fair, they, they're happy, their marriages last forever, their kids never do anything bad, the kids are always praying and reading their Bible, and they're always like doing their laundry and cleaning up after themselves and making the bed. And now, obviously, some kids are just like that. It doesn't take religion to make people good. I mean, again, just look around. Just look. We all know Christians who are some of the most rotten people you've ever met, you know? And you would think, though, if it was really, really, really true, that wouldn't be the case, right? Now, not that you could get 100% ever with anybody, meaning 100 people in a Baptist church. not even 99 are good, right? It's the same averages that you see in life is what you see in a church, you know. And I don't know what the averages are. I don't got any statistics for this, except like my own church that I pastored, 300 people. There's about, I don't know, 100 of them like are really good people, really honest, fair, right, all that kind of stuff. And then, there were the others. Now, what a Christian might say is, well, they weren't really Christian then. They really hadn't submitted themselves to God. They really hadn't given over their heart and life to the control of the Holy Spirit. They really didn't yield themselves to God, really, because if they had, they would live different. And while I can go, okay, I can see that, I can get that. And let me just say, all the stuff that I say doesn't necessarily prove there is no God. I think, if anything, what it definitely proves is that religion is man made, Christianity is fictitious and man made. But like I say in so many videos, I'm agnostic. I've not traveled the universe. I don't know what all's out there. I don't know if there's some supreme being that spun all this stuff into action and then is on vacation, like I'm right now. I'm in Seaside, Florida, on vacation with my beautiful wife, staying in this little beautiful cabin over here. You know, I mean, maybe, but definitely there is no Bible God, and there's definitely no God that is overseeing human interactions and moving certain things in certain ways and doing certain things. It's random when it comes to any slice of the pie. You slice out a pie of people from a church. Some are rotten, some are good, some are dishonest, some are honest, some are fair, some are not fair. Like, that's just it's just what it is. And again, coming from someone who pastored a church, now it wasn't super large. I mean, 300 people is a decent sized church. I think the average church in America is between 80 and 120 people. So, in that kind of a metric, yeah, I mean, 300 people is a pretty good sized church. So I feel like, I have a pretty good swath, is that a word? A swath of people that I pastored personally to see that Jesus ain't making a difference in everybody's life. He makes a difference in some people's life, but just like every religion, I'm sure Hinduism makes some differences in some people's lives. Buddhism makes some differences in some people's lives. Some Muslims are good, I'm sure, right? Like, some spiritual people are good, some aren't, right? And every time that I said there's some good, there's some bad, right? You take a slice of any group of people. Now the Mormons seem to be, you know, a big percentage of them seem to be kind, hardworking, good people. But that doesn't mean that God is real. It just means, I don't know what it means, except it means whatever. But clearly, we know Mormonism is made up. It's just the mentally challenged stepchild of Christianity. Joseph Smith. Like, we have his driver's license. We know he was a charlatan, right? We know that. Like, that's we know this. And what's funny is, as a Christian pastor, I used to say that. And many evangelical Christians, not many, all evangelical Christians think we're like, Mormonism is a cult. Jehovah's Witnesses is a cult. It's a cult. It ain't real. Muslims, that's a lie. Judaism, they okay kind of, but they don't serve Jesus. They don't recognize Jesus as the savior of the world. So they they kind of good people, but they still gonna go to hell and burn forever and ever and ever and then forever. They're gonna burn. Why? Because they didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah. They were blinded by the religion. I used to say all that stuff when I was a Christian. That's what's so funny about this whole thing, is that when I was a Christian, I made fun of almost every other religious view, every other spiritual perspective. I made fun of all of that. All of that was hooky pooky, wookie wookie, nookie nookie. It was all goofy goofy. And now, right, I realize it's all hooky pooky, wookie wookie, goofy goofy, nudie nudie goody, whatever. Like, it's all a bunch of hoofy hoofy. I need to get a shirt. Hoovy hoovy. So one of the biggest threats to believing in the Christian faith to me is knowledge. It's understanding. It's science. I don't believe science is necessarily the enemy of God. There's some scientists that are Christian. I would say they're probably most likely sophisticated Christian, or if anything, culturally Christian. More of a this is this is the view of a culture, that stands behind these things, not as actually factually true, but in a way true. Kind of like the Jordan Petersons of the world, right? Jordan Peterson doesn't actually believe that Jesus was born of a virgin, doesn't actually believe that he was crucified and then resurrected 3 days later, and then actually that this Jesus, the Messiah, is going to come back on a cloud and rapture us away. And like, they don't believe in that. Why? Because it ain't true. That's why. Then they have brains and they read other books besides just the Bible. So yeah, check your brain at the door. What a terrible. I don't. Matter of fact, unless it's a small little country church in the backwoods of somewhere, Arkansas or something, I can't. And I like Arkansas. It just sounded funny to say, but it's like clearly, um, churches aren't going to be saying that anymore. They want to make an intellectual argument for faith and for God and for Jesus and the Bible and all that stuff. And I get it. I get it. I used to be there. I like to consider myself, when I was a Christian, that I was different than other Christians. I no longer was checking my brain at the door. You could use science to prove God. Really? You can't. You just can't. It's something you really do have to just take on faith. And that's the only way that it would ever make sense. Just like, again, my imaginary friend is right here. You don't see him, but I see him. I feel him. I feel his presence. He's with me, right? I I remember that sentiment in the Christian faith, and now I realize, no, like that's a poor road to go down, for sure, where you're checking your brain at the door, and not reading any other books outside of books that are written by Christians. And I don't want to get. I just saw a meme the other day that, it was actually a post that someone posted, that it was some Christian lady that likes to get her nails done. And she said, I went into the nail salon, and everybody there, they burning incense and they got Buddha dolls everywhere. And I thought to myself, I need to find a Christian nail technician so I can get my nails done by a fellow Christian, someone that believes like me, someone that I'm going to pay all this money to do my nails, and I'll feel good about sowing seed into another believer. Sounds a little culty. Sounds a little culty to me, to be honest with you. Um, so yeah, don't be checking your brain at the door. Don't do that. Look with these eyes, not just the eyes of faith. Look with your real eyes, and you'll start seeing things a little different, and seeing things as they are for real. As always, cuss and discuss below. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff. I do have a Facebook page, or Facebook group, actually. It's a private group called the Deconstruction Community. Make sure to join that, and you can get a chance to share and talk with other people, like-minded people who are deconstructing, deconstructed, atheist, agnostic, and I think we even have some people in there that are still questioning quite a bit. I think there's someone in there that's kind of spiritual still, and that's cool, man. Listen, you do you, boo. Like, that's, at the end of the day, you do you, boo. And I say this often because I think it bears repeating. A lot of the things I say here, I say it because it's my it's my channel, right? I say what I want because it's my channel based on my story, my perspective, my beliefs, how I see things now. I don't challenge anybody. If I'm out, like we were just at this little coffee shop over here, chit chatting with different people, and when people talk about, oh, I thank God for this or thank God for that, I don't roll my eyes. I don't say nothing. I don't say, well, that's all BS, don't you? That's not true. There's no science to back that up, right? You're like, that's fake. I don't do that. Now, again, I'm thinking that in my mind, I'm thinking, man, wow, that's interesting. But then again, that was me. And this person was younger than me. They were probably in their 30s. So listen, in my 30s, I was a sold out, radical, tongue talking Christian. It it doesn't say that much about my intelligence, I guess. It took me all the way up until my late 40s to go, maybe it ain't true as I've been thinking it is true, right? All right. Thank you so much for watching my videos of me rambling. And yeah, like I said, do all the stuff. It really makes a difference in the channel. I can't thank you enough. It means so much. And all the comments, I read most all the comments. I mean, sometimes the videos get too many comments. I just can't read them because I have a life outside of this YouTube channel. But even the people that want to challenge me or ask questions, hey, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. All right, guys. Peace.